Hello cardboard lovers, it's Cardboard Badger here. I hope you're doing well, and today we have for you a brand new standard legal deck tech with cards from KALDHEIM. We're going Boros yet again, and we're going Tribal yet again. This time we are going with Dwarves, and we are going to be using some fantastic cards which you can only get from theme boosters. So that being said, we will get straight into it, starting off with our 23 creatures. We're playing one copy of Giant Killer. For 1 white mana we have a Human Peasant 1/2, and for 1 and a white we can tap it and tap target creature. Tap our opponents and shut them down, also tapping our own dwarves to generate more dwarf tokens. We're actually really playing this for the instant, the adventure side. Chop down. For 2 and a white we can destroy target creature with power 4 or greater, and then hopefully later on in the game we can drop it as the peasant and then start tapping things down. Next, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Magda Brazen Outlaw. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, we have a Dwarf Berserker, a 2/1, and other dwarves you control get +1/+0. So it's going to make our dwarves a little bit stronger, and whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. Sacrifice 5 of these treasure tokens, and we can go and search a library for an artifact or a dragon card. Put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. So we are going to be attacking or just tapping our dwarves, making tokens, sacking those tokens to get a dragon out earlier than we should do. Excellent card indeed. Up next we are going to be playing 7 copies, because we can, of 7 dwarves. For 2 mana, 1 and a red, we have a dwarf. It's a 2/2, and 7 dwarves gets +1/+1 for each of the creature named 7 dwarves that you control. And as it says at the bottom there, you can have 7 cards named 7 dwarves. So at its most greatest, for 2 mana, we are going to be having an 8/8 dwarf. Amazing stuff indeed. We're also going to be playing 1 copy of Goldmoor Champion. For 3 mana, 2 and a white, we have a Dwarf Warrior, a 2/3, and it has Boast. For 1 and a white, we can tap target creature. So this attacks, and then at some point later on in our turn, if we want to pay that 2 mana, we can tap either our opponent's creature or our own, preferably our own, to enable us to create more dwarves. So just the 1 copy of. We're also going to be playing 2 copies of Runeforged Champion. For 3 mana, 2 and a white, we have a Dwarf Warrior, a 2/3, and when Runeforged Champion enters the battlefield, you may search your library and or graveyard for a rune card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. If you search your library this way, shuffle it, and you may pay 1 rather than pay the mana cost for rune spells you cast. So this is going to enable us to go and find the few rune cards that we have in the deck, so we can scoop them up and then obviously put them on a dwarf at a later date. We're also playing 3 copies. The theme booster card. We've got War Chanter Skald. For 3 mana, 2 and a white, we have a Dwarf Cleric, 2/3 again, and whenever War Chanter Skald becomes tapped, if it's enchanted or equipped, create a 2/1 red Dwarf Berserker creature token. So every time this attacks, we make another dwarf. We hopefully, with some of the previous cards we've seen, tap our own creature rather than our opponent's. Targeting this, we create another dwarf. We can use this to go nice and wide and also make our creatures bigger thanks to some of the equipment that we'll be seeing later on. Amazing card. Up next we have the first of our dragons. We have 1 copy of Gadrak the Crown Scourge. For 3 mana, 2 and a red, we have a dragon, 5/4 flyer, and Gadrak can't attack unless you control 4 or more artifacts. And at the beginning of your end step, create a treasure token for each non-token creature that died this turn. So it's not only our own creatures, it's our opponents. Possibly isn't going to be doing any attacking, but we do have Magda, and hopefully we have already produced a selection of tokens. So this could come out early in the game and be able to attack. But if not, it's going to generate us more treasure tokens, and that's vitally important, because if we've got Magda out, we can then start sacking those 5 tokens to bringing out some of our other dragons a lot earlier. We're also playing 2 copies of Bloodline Pretender. Absolutely love this card. For 3 mana, we have an artifact creature. It's a shapeshifter. It's a 2/2, but as it enters the battlefield, we'll choose a creature type. It will be dwarves. And whenever another creature of the chosen type enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Bloodline Pretender. So the important thing to note with this is it doesn't say non-creature tokens. So even our tokens, when they come in, will enable the Changeling to get a +1/+1 counter, and hopefully these will be pretty large. We're also going to be playing one copy of Torbran, Thane of Redfell, for 4 mana, 1 red. We have a Dwarf Noble, 2/4, and if a red source you control will deal damage to an opponent or permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +2 instead. So the majority of our dwarfs, all our dwarf tokens are red, so if we've gone wide and we swing in, they will be hitting for 4 damage each. So one copy of Torbran. We're also playing one copy of Goldspan Dragon for 5 mana, 3 red. We have a dragon, a 4/4 flying hasty beast, and whenever Goldspan Dragon attacks or becomes a target of a spell, create a treasure token. So we're using this dragon, even if it comes out later on in the game, just to create more tokens so Madka can then sack them to look for other dragons. Also, if for some reason we are super short on mana, treasures you control have tap and sacrifice this artifact and add 2 mana of any one colour. And our final creature, we have another dragon. We got 2 copies of Terror of the Peaks for 5 mana, 3 red. We have a 5/4 dragon with flying with spells your opponents cast that target Terror of the Peaks cost an additional 3 life to cast, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. So if we happen to tap a dwarf and make a dwarf token, if we've got Torbran out, it's going to be doing 4 damage to the face or an opponent's creature every time we make an additional dwarf. Amazing stuff indeed. And that is the final creature. For our non-creature spells, we are going to be starting off with one copy of Disenchant. For 2 mana, 1 and a white, we have an instant which will enable us to destroy a target artifact or enchantment. We're also going to be playing 2 copies of Pacifism. For 2 mana, 1 and a white, we have an aura. An enchant creature can't attack or block. And we also have, just to make our dwarves a little bit stronger, 2 copies of Rally the Ranks. For 2 mana, 1 and a white, we have an enchantment with, as Rally the Ranks enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. We're going to say dwarves, and creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. Next, we have 2 copies of Rune of Sustenance. Hopefully we can get our Runeforged champion dwarf to scoop this up and cast it for 1 mana, but if not, it is 2 mana, 1 and a white, and we have a rune. We can enchant a permanent. When this enters the battlefield also, we get to draw a card, and if the permanent is a creature, or if the permanent is an equipment, the equipped creature has lifelink. So card draw and the ability to give one of our dwarves lifelink and stay in the game a little bit longer is a good thing. We're also going to be playing 1 copy of Bound in Gold. For 3 mana, 2 and a white, we have an aura with Enchant Permanent. Enchanted Permanent can't attack or block all crew vehicles, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So for that 1 additional mana, it's Pacifism with a lot more. Up next, we have 4 copies of Bearded Axe. This is another one of the theme booster cards, and this is so good. For 3 mana, 2 and a red, we have an equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each dwarf, equipment and or vehicle you control, and it costs 2 mana to equip it. So really we want to be sticking this onto a War Chanter and making it absolutely massive so it can literally tap, hopefully just get blocked, and it will make another dwarf token and another dwarf token and so on and so on, making the War Chanter even bigger because we're generating more dwarves. Absolutely fantastic card, brilliant, which is why we're going to be playing 4. Next, we have 2 copies of Forging the Tyrite Sword. For 3 mana, we have a saga, 1 red and white, and its first and second chapter is create a treasure token. So this is super important. It will allow us to either ramp or keep them for Madga to then start sacking when we have 5 to go and get one of our dragons. Also, its third chapter, search your library for a card name, How the God of Battle, or an equipment card, reveal it and put it into your hand and shuffle your library. So we're using this to basically go and get our axe, our bearded axe. That's the important card because it's going to make one of our dwarfs super huge thanks to all the other dwarves we've got. So 2 copies of. And our final card before we get to the lands, we have 1 copy of Doomscar. For 5 mana, 3 white, we have a sorcery with destroy all creatures, with the bonus of having the Fatale cost for 1 white. Up next we have our lands. We have a total of 23, starting off with a full play set of Needleverge Pathway for our red mana, or Pillarverge Pathway if we happen to be short of white. We're also going to be playing 1 copy of Axguard Armory. Enters the battlefield tapped, but we can tap it and add 1 white mana. In addition to that, we can tap for 4, 1 red, white, tap it and sacrifice the Axguard Armory and search our library for an aura card and or an equipment card. In addition to that, we are going to be playing 9 plains and also 9 mountains. So there we have it. That is the entire standard legal deck tech, Boros Dwarves, with cards from KALDHEIM. I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have done, like, share, subscribe, do the thing. It does help out the channel. That would be fantastic. I thank you in advance. Other than that, I'd just like to say, if you do want more Cardboard Badger in your life, have a look in the link in the description below. There's various places you can catch us. And other than that, I'd just like to say thank you for watching, and we will see you again soon here on Cardboard Badger.